Hey guys, GHA here with a new Alchemy Stars topic. Now, if you've watched my likes and dislike video, you know one of my favorite parts of this game is the involvement with different factions and how unique they are from each other. And with this, I came up with the idea to put in order my favorites. Now keep in mind that there are multiple reasoning for the order of my list, be it character, culture, story involvement, and so on. But at the end of the day, no matter the order, I truly love all these factions and always love to see them get explored throughout the story. With that being said, let's jump into it. At number 8, Residential Wrench, a group of bandits that's pretty much live by their own rules. First time meeting them while escaping from a group of Eclipse sites in Chapter 2. Now just because I had them last doesn't mean I barely have any interest in them as a group whatsoever. I mean shoot, one interest I have in the future story-wise is seeing more of Bappa, who apparently stated they have a Colossus of their own. This could lead to some interesting lore discovery if we ever eventually see it. Then there was also the time where our first event involved with Sansa and his sister Eve, to which I gotta say was a great first event in terms of story. I mean, you knew before there was some tension between Sansa and Illumina, but this really opened up why there are some strife in the first place. Honestly, quite a colorful bunch that no matter who or where they are, things are always going to be lively. And I'm very excited to see we're finally getting more members during this second half of the Ruins event. I mean, we haven't had anyone new since the Eye of Storm event, so glad to see the roster getting updated soon. Number 7, we have Independent. Now, interesting about this one is that it's a faction that makes up of smaller factions. I mean, you got Courier Union, that's basically the mailman of the verse, traveling all across Astra to deliver mail. Animal Instinct, which is a group of individuals that takes on animal traits. And then Silent Hunters, who I'm pretty much most interested in terms of their lore. I mean, these guys were made for the sole purpose of fighting Eclipse sites. It's some interesting lore going on with this bunch. And apparently from what I've seen on YouTube, you unlock a new stage if you collect them all. I mean, there's something really interesting going on with this group, especially when you read each and every one of their files, how they were brought in for a project and then they were sealed away, and whether or not this kingdom that was continuously mentioned still exists. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if this was in relation to Lumapolis, since corrupted nobles was frequently mentioned. Still, I'm curious to see if these guys will get involved in the main story in the far future. There's some interesting lore to be dug up here. Number 6 is Northland, a fairy tale type of place that is constantly snowing. It wasn't too long ago that we finally were getting more knowledge about this area. First we had a 4th story added where it told when Carlene went there for training as a child. Then with the New Year event, we were invited to celebrate the New Year, to where we learned the tradition of how the new queen is always born. But what really has my most curiosity is how Queen Bethlehem has an ability to predict the future. And she was seeing all these possible futures that involved the navigator being the center of it all, which is the reason why she even invited him over to Northland in the first place. Heck, this land truly has some mystery going on with it. When you go around unlocking file stories, you hear a rumor where if you're lost in the forest, a child will guide you back to town. This apparently gets discovered with Constantine, Sikair, and Beverly. And there's still even more mysterious tales going on, whether it comes from other Orions or the books that you collect. You sometimes gotta wonder what else you're going to discover with this place. Number 5 is the Eclipse, the main villains of the story and pretty much a constant headache for your characters, as well as a case of the extension for the Navigator's race, leaving him to be the only survivor. Now my reason why I have them at number 5 is because of what we're still trying to learn about them. I mean, these things came out of nowhere and started a massive invasion on the continent, and even the reason why an organization like Illumina was made in order to fight against them. And with a lot of corruption you see going on that involves with Eclipse site, it really begs the question what their goal is and who this mother that keeps being mentioned. A massive mystery that needs to be solved. Then with the death of Scummer, you get a glimpse of 6 Eclipse sites who seem to be like the running commanders of the organization under Mother. We already know about one of them named Fitzgerald, who was pretty much the ringleader in the fall of Iravel. With all this being a part of some grand scheme, we'll just have to wait and see until we learn more. Number 4 is Lumapolis. Always gotta have that faction of nobility in these types of worlds. And you know, you get the typical arrogant and corrupted types who looks down on others and gets greedy for power. But it's not like that involves all of them. Heck, I'm quite fascinated the most when it comes to the king of Lumapolis, Swat, and his daughter Carlene. Which, I have to say, I'm really enjoying Carlene's story uses. Her backstory is fascinating, and I'm enjoying how she's become part of the team. But what's really got me interested in Lumapolis is the amount of inner strife that's been gearing up. I mean, between the story and character files, there was quite an amount of corruption and scandals being brought up, and I'm still inclined to believe that some political civil war will go down in the future. They're pretty much the reason why a place like Umbertron was created, and we've been getting a lot of event stories relating to Lumapolis history. As I said, this is some prelude to something major in the future. Number 3, we have Umbertron, a straightforward dog-eat-dog type of place. You either find your way to the top of the pyramid or just continue to live at the bottom of the totem pole. Still, the idea of a town pretty much being run by guilds is interesting. There's been some beef here and there, but it doesn't take away how much of an interesting place Umbertron is. Not to mention design-wise, I think Umbertron characters got the best overall. Like some of their A3 art especially are just so good. And the one who runs this whole place, Estevan, I can't deny that the guy is pretty awesome. I mean, for him to be the leader of a place like this, you know he had to be someone who wouldn't let anyone push him around. And the Gloom of the Night event gave us some very interesting art of Umbertron. I'm fascinated with the creation of the city and the people within. Despite it being a rough place, it's quite interesting. Have to wait and see what else is in store. Number 2 is the military faction Illumina Federation. For this faction to be the second on this list is pretty much because of how involved we are with them. I mean, heck, the first person we run into is Vice, and ever since then, it's like the Navigator is slowly becoming an actual member. Plus again, this is the main faction who are fighting against the Eclipse site, so that's even more of a reason. And the Commander Reinhardt is one of our most anticipated future playable characters. I just know she's going to be an awesome unit whenever she comes out. Not to mention the faction itself is pretty intriguing. You got a number of colorful characters and they really hammer it down how important each of the groups are to Illumina as a whole. From support to research division, you get a nice little explanation on what they all do. And we still haven't gotten into talk about how crazy the reveal of Foraskin was. First of all, this was someone who used to work for Illumina, doing crazy dangerous experiments with one of her test subjects was Sensa's sister, Eve. We also learned that this person is Reinhardt's sister. Then we hear how potentially Illumina has some involvement with Eclipse site transformation. Things just continue to get crazier with these twists, and I'm all in for it. And the very last faction on this list, the True Order at number 1. These guys are pretty much like a cult whose purpose is to uncover the truth of the world. Just hearing that alone gets me excited, because I feel like out of all the factions within Alchemy Stars, the True Order are the main ones digging up some major lore in this game. First of all, if you didn't know this by now, Paloma and Victoria are easily my top 2. But in all seriousness, I'm really interested in them most because of how much we might learn through them. These guys are even going around collecting these seeds that can turn you into an Eclipse site. I mean, it's how we managed to run to the first member, Foss, who really loves to talk in riddles. And there's some apparent bad blood between them and Lumapolis, or at least that's the impression I got from Carlene. I mean, the way she spoke about them, it seems like the True Order are an eyesore for everything Lumapolis stands for. This especially holds true when some members of the True Order are originally from Lumapolis, and when it comes to the leader Victoria, it really seems like she got some history behind her, especially with that book she carries around that she feeds seeds to. I don't know if that's bad news from what I saw for the Navigator, but still I can't wait to get more involved with this faction. This is really a special group for me personally. And with that, we have our completed list. I swear, the more I play this game and go deeper into the lore, the more I just fall in love with it. And I'm always a big fan when it comes to having multiple factions that works their own system without involving a war or such. So how do y'all have the 8 factions ranked? I'd love to hear y'all opinion on it, or just tell me who's your favorite is. Catch y'all next time.